Okay, so this is my 2010 Hyundai Elantra Touring, and the shifts have started to be very rough, very lurchy and lungy, and very recently, in fact it was Christmas Day, it hesitated to shift out of first for a couple of seconds, but you notice these things if you're a car guy. So we have to change the fluid. Now, I did my research. This thing takes a strange synthetic that has SP3 as its standard, which you can't just get anywhere. Now, I did manage to get it at Canadian Tire. You can get something similar at Walmart. But the weird thing is there's no filter. And it's probably because it's synthetic, or maybe that's their excuse, or I don't know what. But anyway, I was warned that you need to change the fluid in these things quite often. More often than is recommended, because, encoded in that friendly advice from the dealership is that these are not very good transmissions. So we're at 130,000 kilometers, and we need to change the fluid. Not just because of the number, not just because of the color that it is, but because it's starting to show signs of failure. Now, the dealership wants to flush it out. And if you ask anybody, they say don't ever flush a transmission out. You just let it drain and then refill it, because varnish chips can get around into the scary areas like bearings and various other parts, interior parts of the transmission. Now, I don't know if varnish is an issue with full synthetic automatic transmissions, but I'm not going to take the chance. So we are going to drain and refill. And I don't know how much fluid is going to come out. The total capacity is 6.6 liters or 6.97 quarts. And I know that some of the fluid is in parts that are not going to drain out. That's just the way it works. Hence why flushing is necessary if you actually want to do a full fluid change. But I bought replacement fluid, 5 liters of it, almost as much as I need for a full capacity change, for $30. And if all you're doing is opening a bolt and draining it and then pouring new stuff in the top, I'm not paying, even they wanted $150 at Canadian Tire to do it. I'll pay $30 and do it myself. So here we go. Here's the automatic transmission dipstick, and it says that my fluid is looking nasty. It's kind of hard to see. It's still a little reddish, but it does have some dark suspended grossness in it. Now, the bright side is that that filler nozzle is very close to the top of the engine. So I don't need a fancy funnel. I can use any old funnel to refill this thing, and that's good. So we got to find the drain plug. So changing the oil is relatively easy. The oil pan is on this side of the engine. This is what we're looking at here. The engine is mounted transverse or sideways. So instead of the transmission being behind the engine, it's beside it. And this is the transmission over here. So it's not super clear what's what. So it doesn't say, here it is, change me. If you read the manual, it says if you want to change your fluid, take it to the dealership. That's all it says. Thanks a lot. I recommend this video here. This is a Chris Fix, and I do my research online like most smart people like yourselves, and found how to do it. And there's 2 ways. One is to take the bottom pan off and drain the fluid out, and then you can change the filter, and that's all great. But again, it doesn't get the entire capacity of fluid out. The only way to do that is flushing it. But flushing it's not recommended. And it was in fact the guy at Canadian Tire that told me his buddy owns a lube shop, and they make you sign a waiver when you ask them to flush the transmission, because they don't want to take any responsibility for impossible to see things happening, like chunks of varnish getting into scary spots. So anyway, that's the drain plug on the bottom of the transmission pan. So it is likewise a little black pan bolted to the bottom of the vehicle that encloses, you know, various valves and parts and scary magical stuff. But that bolt is what we need to loosen off. And there's actually a nifty little cutaway for it in this little plastic shielding. So without being absolutely certain, I'm pretty darn certain that this has got to be the thing I'm looking for. It is a drain plug if I've ever seen a drain plug. So I'm going to pull that off, let it drain neatly and happily into my little drain pan here, and then we're going to measure just how much fluid came out. I know that the maximum that could come out is 6.6 liters, and I have enough fluid to replace it if that's what I get. So we'll see. Now notice the car is up on a jack. I don't intend on leaving it elevated like this. I think it's supposed to be level when you drain it, evidenced by the fact that the drain plug is on the front of this pan. But this just made it easier for me to see what I was doing. Well, come on, you. I'll let it down once I've got it going. Oh, look at that. That is gross. And hot. All right, here's the stuff I got. I don't like anything that's multi-purpose because it never does any of its functions quite as well as a single-purpose thing would do. But I was looking for that. Hyundai SP3. That's what I needed it to be, and since this is, we got the right stuff. Now there we go. Less than 3 liters. So I'm only changing less than half of the fluid by doing this. Alright, so the car is now back on level ground. The plug is tightly secured in the bottom again. And all we got to do is put the remaining, or the missing fluid, we need to replace it with the new stuff. So all we're really doing is thinning old oil with new oil, which means really I'm going to have to do this more often. But frankly, if I was doing $30 worth of fluid change once a year, that's way more frequently than the manufacturer is requiring. And I think that's going to work just as well. I'm going to enjoy it because I like doing this kind of stuff. And it's cheaper. Now here's a rag I used to wipe my hands off after I spilled on them, and shows you the difference between the color of the fluid that came out, and here's what color it's supposed to be. Pink. So once the car is up to temperature, go through the gears just to make sure that the fluid's nice and circulated as best you can. Then let's have a look at the fluid.